Okay, so I am sitting here cleaning up, and as I was starting to organize one of my cabinets, I have like a whole bunch of stuff in front of me. I started to get this download partially because I noticed that when I'm in this flow state of like cleaning and organizing, because I was organizing a cabinet and I just brought some of the stuff over to my office to like really sort things out. I start to get these like messages that come through, these downloads or whatever. So I wanted to share this. Another thing that I think really brought this message down was that the lawn people are out, the landscapers are out servicing my neighbor's house. And my neighbor and I, a few of my neighbors and I, we share the same lawnscaping or landscaping service. I guess it's lawnscaping too. And I was texting with the person a few days ago because I had a tree removed or cut down from my house in my backyard a couple of years ago. I had a totally different person, an arborist, come out and like cut this tree down. And the arborist didn't tell me that I needed to like have the stump removed. But in talking to other people, because I also, part of the reason I needed to have the tree cut down was because it was starting to hang over pretty low on my neighbor's home. And the tree is just too big for the space. And so we talked about options, and the one option was just like to keep having it trimmed back, which is what I had been doing. But the person told me like the tree is just too big for the space, and like it was starting to grow through concrete, and it was other, other things that I had to consider. So I just had it cut down. Now, I also want to put a fence where the tree was at some point. The person said that I would have to wait a while before I could actually get the fence. I didn't know what that meant. I just thought that the stump needed to like decay or something. I don't know what I thought was going to happen, but it wasn't until I talked to another person and they said, oh, you actually have to have the stump like ground up to fully have it removed from the earth. And so in my backyard now, the reason I was texting with my landscaping person the other day, and part of the reason why, okay, so as I was just sitting here, I heard the landscaping people. I had to go look outside because when I texted them, I said like, I sent a picture of this stump that now has turned into this giant bush because we've gotten so much rain over the last few weeks. And I was like, next time you come, can you please service this corner where this tree was? Like I had the tree cut down. I just kind of gave them the backstory. I had the tree cut down, but it's starting to grow again, and I need to have it cut down as low as possible so that I can just have that space back. It's just really gotten out of hand. And so they responded and said, yeah, we'll come next time we cut the grass. I had my grass cut last weekend, so I got a little confused when I heard the lawnmowers and I looked out and saw they were at my neighbor's home. But then this also made me think about this show that I'm binging on HBO. Was it HBO Max? HBO Max or HBO Plus? I think it's HBO Max. The Last of Us. I just started this show. I just finished season 1 yesterday. It's a pretty good show based off of a video game. I was not familiar, with the video game. I didn't even know it was based on a video game. But the whole concept of this show is that there's this pandemic that my skin is crawling right now because it's so disgusting. It's also making my scalp itch. The premise of the show is that there is this cordyceps infestation. It is pandemic, it's a pandemic, a global pandemic, and it is where these cordyceps have like taken over people's bodies, and the people basically have these mushrooms growing through their brains and they turn into like these mushroom zombies basically. And oh, my scalp is itching. It's just really gross when they show it. Like that kind of stuff creeps me out. When they show like the mushrooms and stuff growing out of the people's faces and stuff. Oh, I have chills right now. Anyway, this message came through so strong for me because as I started getting into manifestation in my life, which was like over a decade ago, honestly, it started for me with The Secret, although I didn't really know what I was reading at the time because I felt like The Secret the book and the film were both so vague. They weren't like speaking in exact terms, and you kind of had to read between the lines and then read other books to kind of get to what the secret was trying to get to. I just found it to be a really like kind of a lame book, honestly, if I'm being real. But that was how my manifestation, the studying of manifestation actually developed, was from that book, and then later getting into like Neville Goddard, and then that transitioning into like brain science type books and like quantum physics and stuff like that. So I'm saying all of that to say that when we start thinking about manifestation, it is actually pretty easy to manifest things in your life if you have the right belief system. And I'm speaking from experience. What can be challenging though is for people to continue to manifest, and for the manifestations to be sustainable, right? You might manifest something, but if you are not equipped to handle the thing that you have manifested, you're going to lose it. And you might be able to, you know, figure out how to continue to manifest the thing in your life. But if you haven't done the work to actually grind the stump after you have the tree cut, or if you haven't eliminated the cordyceps, because like it made me think about the show. And on the very first episode, you know, maybe it's not the first episode, I can't remember, but it's in the first season. You kind of get all of these characters like perspectives of like where they were when the outbreak started. And so there's this one scene where there's this mycologist, and I think that's what it's called, mycologist, which is like a person who studies mushrooms. She's a professor. The police go get this professor and they show her this dead body, and they're like, look at this stuff under this microscope. You know, what does this look like? And she's like, oh, it's mushrooms, it's cordyceps. And they tell her like, yeah, now look at this dead body. And she's like inspecting it because she doesn't think that the mushrooms can grow inside of a human being. You know, like a human can't host a fungi in that way based on her professional and academic, you know, studies or whatever. So when they take her to this dead body that's been taken over by this mushroom, she, you know, takes her scalpel, and then once she cuts the person's skin, the mushroom just like shows itself and it's in the person's mouth. My skin's crawling again. Yuck. This part really creeped me out. It's a creepy show, but it's really good. I don't usually like these types of like zombie shows and things, but this one I kind of got into. But I really have to fight through the creepiness of it all too. My scalp's itching. But in her investigating this thing, the woman is also creeped out when she discovers that, oh my goodness, this cordyceps has taken over this human host. I didn't know this was possible. So the inspector or whoever starts asking her, like, how do you recommend we like fight this? It's spreading all over the country and all over the world. And like, how can we get ahead of it? And so she has this really grim moment where she's like, the only way to get rid of it is to like drop bombs on the country and like wherever they are, because it spreads so quickly. And one thing I've learned about like mycelium is that they grow, you know, they thrive in the dark and they grow underground and they grow really, really quickly. And so that was her recommendation, was just like, you got to drop these things on it so that it can be destroyed that way. Which takes me back to this tree that I cut down. So the intent behind me cutting the tree down wasn't just to cut the tree down so that it could continue to grow. It was to cut the tree so that the tree would, you know, become one with the earth and like not take over my backyard. But I didn't do what I needed to do to prevent the tree from continuing to grow, which is to like hire somebody to grind the stump. That's what should have happened. And that would like, you know, prevent the trunk from continuing to grow. And so I'm using this came up for me when I think about, as I'm thinking about like manifestation, even in my own life right now, there are things that I'm trying to manifest for myself because I'm in this like transitional period. And so my life can look like what it looked like before, which honestly wasn't great. And it was like very mentally taxing and unstable for various reasons. Or it could look like something totally different. It could look like you know, a life that's filled with a bit more whimsy, a bit more flexibility, more freedom of time, more financial freedom, things like that, which is what I want. But I'm realizing in myself that I still have so many old root systems that exist from this old way of living. And so for me, when I think about my situation, because the situation is I had lost my job in January, and so now I'm in this unemployment period and trying to figure out, like, I'm taking classes and like trying to reskill myself and all of this stuff, but like really trying to figure out what the next step is. And so the life that I was living pre-layoff is not the life professionally that I want to continue to live, but I have been so programmed to only think one way about how I generate income that I am now having to not only reskill myself so that I'm prepared for a new industry, but to also rid my body of all of that beliefs, like all of those beliefs that I held about there only being one way for me to earn a living. And this is a really, really, really important part of the manifestation journey. No matter what you are trying to manifest, if you do not believe that the things that you want are possible for yourself, even if they come into your life, they will be fleeting. You will not be able to sustain the thing in your life because you at your core don't believe that you are worthy of it. You don't believe it's possible. You don't believe that you have good luck. You don't believe that this kind of stuff would happen for you. You don't believe that it's realistic. That's it, right? And you have to abandon the old way of thinking in order to be able to call the new stuff into you. And like, this is my hot take. I understand that some people on social media have adopted this principle of being delusional. I personally do not subscribe to that. I think that this is just mindset. Being delusional is, if I'm not mistaken, like a real mental health condition. So I am not a fan of just like randomly taking these words and latching on to them as part of your identity when what you're really trying to do is shift your mindset. And you have to go back to your core beliefs. If you have not received a clinical diagnosis from a psychiatrist that says that you suffer from delusion, I do not believe that any person should be talking about that in that way. I just think it's really inappropriate. Again, that's my hot take. You will never see me on this channel talking about I became delusional and that's how I manifested that. No, because there are actual people living with delusions and, they are trying to figure out how to manage that condition. I don't think that's how we should be using that word. Anyway, I'm saying all of that to say this is a belief system change that needs to take place, right? If you have a virus on your computer, you don't just keep downloading new programs and think that the computer is going to function the way it's supposed to function if you have not eliminated the virus that's on the computer. And the virus in your mind could be the old way that you have thought, right? If you are a person that constantly believes that something is not in your budget, and that is so deeply ingrained in you where you miss opportunities pass you. You could be sitting next to somebody, right? You could go to a raffle and the ticket that they pull is going to be the number that was right before yours or the one that came right after yours. And you're sitting there like, oh my gosh, why wasn't it me? It could have been me. It's because you have this belief that wealth can't flow to you. You have this belief that it's not serving you. And I've dealt with this. I know people in my personal life who deal with this, and not just that specific belief, but just these limiting beliefs that you as an individual have the power to change. Like, I can't be the one to make you believe something about yourself. You have to decide that you are going to change your operating system. You cannot just turn on an Apple computer and expect that Microsoft is going to show up. That's not how that works. Now, you could actually download Microsoft onto an Apple computer. I've done that before, and I know other people who have done that for various reasons, but like, it just doesn't come like that. You got to buy that software and download it. You have to do some extra steps to remove the operating system and put a new operating system on there. And I'm trying to use all these different examples because I've been studying like I said this stuff for over a decade. So these concepts are easy for me to grasp, but for people who are just now starting to dabble their toes in it, or in this TikTok age or whatever, are just starting to like get into manifestation and it's just a buzzword and they don't actually understand that it's not just luck. There's other components behind it. And one big aspect of it is your self-belief. This is also why I push therapy so hard. Like, I personally worked with a licensed therapist and have for the past, I've worked with my current therapist for, and I mean like as in I am one of her clients, not like I'm employed by this person. I have had a therapist as part of my care team for the past 5 years. This is the therapist that I feel has really helped me make some major transitions in my life as far as my belief system goes. I've worked with other therapists in the past, and like therapists are just like partners, right? Like romantic partners. The first one that you come across might not be the best fit. You do have to shop around a little bit. And fortunately for me, I finally found a person that, I feel comfortable with and who has really helped me take my belief system to the next level, who has helped me take my healing journey to the next level. And like for people who have this sort of, I don't even know why there's still a stigma around like therapy and seeking therapy and all of that stuff. Because for me, it makes so much sense, right? If you are stuck in a space in your life, and I mean, when I say stuck, I mean like you're experiencing all of the same. You have not been able to get a new job that pays more money. You keep attracting the same type of loser relationship. You keep, and I'm not trying to shade nobody when I say this, but just giving these examples, you keep hitting the same roadblocks no matter what you're trying to achieve. And I don't care what the state of the economy is, right? Like, I know I've kind of mentioned like financial stuff a little bit in some of my examples. You have to have a belief that the things that you once thought were impossible for you can be possible for you. If you are one of those people, and I like to use the finances because I think that is something that most people can relate to. If you are one of those people who has had a scarcity mindset your entire life, you will have to do some work on yourself to believe that you can actually change your own situation, that you yourself can change your own situation. And it's going to take time because you cannot just cut the plant off without digging the root up, right? You can't just get rid of the mushroom zombies without boom, right? Without something drastic happening to eliminate those things. The same can be said for your belief system and for your mindset. Like you have to decide to do the work and like do the work. Do the work. If you don't see change in some of these areas in your life, it is probably because you aren't doing the work. Or liken it to like, people who want to get in the best physical shape of their life, right? If you've never been active and you've always lived a sedentary lifestyle and you decide that you want to run a marathon, you cannot go from being a couch potato to running a 5-mile marathon. Your heart will not be able to handle that. There's stuff that has to happen in between, right? So what you might do, if you are a couch potato and you've never ran and the thought of running makes you feel sick to your stomach, but you know that one of your goals in life is to be in the best shape of your life and to be able to run a marathon, you can't go from sitting on the couch all day to running a marathon in a week. There's a really great episode of How I Met Your Money, How I Met Your Money, How How I Met Your Mother, where Neil Patrick Harris plays Barney Stinson, and he does not train for this like New York marathon, and he just decides his character is like very ego centric and like just that, right? And he's like, I'm going to run this marathon. And he runs the marathon without training for it. And then He gets on the subway after the marathon and tries to go back home. And then when his stop comes, he physically can't move. So he's stuck on the subway all day because his body is in a state of shock because he didn't train properly. And so like that's the whole episode. It's really funny. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. But like he goes from basically being a couch potato to running a marathon, and his body suffers as a result of it. That is a great example of you having to be the one to do the work. You cannot just, like, manifestation is not just some magical thing where you say like, oh, I'm going to manifest $1 million. And then like, poof, tomorrow there's going to be $1 million in my bank account. That's not usually how it happens. Like if there are some extenuating circumstances, your rich auntie passes away or something and you're her favorite niece or nephew and she leaves you this 9-figure inheritance, and like, sure, great. Good for you, right? Or you hit the jackpot. But for most people, that's not how it happens. What happens is you decide that you want $1 million, and then you put it on your vision board. You do things to start to train yourself to believe that that is even attainable for you. But if you've never even seen anything remotely close to $1 million, it's going to be hard for you to believe that for yourself. Just like if you are a couch potato and you try to run that marathon, you will hurt yourself, right? And I'm not trying to wish that on anybody, but like you got people who've been running marathons their entire life and then run a marathon and then fall out and, have some cardiovascular episode because like that is just a sport that you really have to have a lot of endurance for. So going back to that couch potato example though, the couch potato who decides they want to become a marathon runner and run their first 5K, what would that process look like for them realistically? Would it look like them jumping right from the couch onto the track? Probably not, right? Or like the marathon track or whatever. Probably not. It might look like the first step might actually look like them going to the New York City, or I don't know. Let's say they're in Boston, just because I'm trying to think of marathon, like famous marathon names, and I know Boston Marathon is a big one. Let's say they're in Boston. They've been sitting on the sofa for literal decades in Boston, and they're like, I want to run a marathon. Like, that's my goal. I want to run a marathon, and I want to finish the marathon successfully. They might go from sitting on the couch and watching TV to sitting on the couch with their laptop open on the Boston Marathon registration page. Maybe they're like, okay, the marathon is October 7th. I have no idea when the marathon usually is. The marathon is October 7th. How much does it cost to register? Okay, it costs $150 to register. What do I get with that registration? I get X, Y, and Z. So now they're actually starting to believe that this is something that's possible for them. Mind you, the person has not started training yet. Right? The person is just starting to change their mindset and believe that this is something that they can accomplish. The person might then say, okay, well, it is July right now. Would I realistically be ready to run the Boston Marathon? Let's say this is just a runners only. I don't know how it works. I don't know if they have like a walkers category, but that 5-mile walk might also still be a really long walk for a person that hasn't been physically active ever. So maybe the person says, okay, it's July. Realistically, I'm not going to be ready for that. I'm not going to have enough time to train for that right now, given where I currently am. But that's my goal. Let's say October 7th of 2027, next year, I am ready to run this race. So what do they do in the meantime? They start to think about what it would look like to train. Now, again, this person, the couch potato, might be intimidated by running. So they might say to themselves, well, I need to start getting in the habit of like actually getting out and moving my legs and like just the motion. Like I can't go from sitting on the couch to just running a mile. Let me start finding groups, or let me start taking myself for a walk on a regular basis. And maybe the first walk is just like, from their home to, let's say they walk 10 blocks and they walk back, and it's just at a slow, regular pace. And they're like, okay, that wasn't so bad. And then maybe they do that for a whole week to get in the habit of actually getting up and having the routine of moving their body regularly, right? So that week goes by, and then that week turns into a month. And let's say on the second week of them taking their walk, they say, okay, I'm still going to walk the 10 blocks, but I'm going to walk like at a more accelerated pace. I want to try to break a sweat. So then they start doing that for that whole week. They speed walk down their street, right? They do that. So let's say on week 3, they decide, okay, speed walking worked. I want to see if I can like maybe find a walking trail. So then they find a walking trail that's like a mile around. They speed walk around the walking trail, right? And maybe that's a little bit difficult for them, but they do it. They keep doing it, and they keep building their endurance, and they keep building their cardiovascular health. So then they say, okay, I've been walking for a month consistently. Like I've been walking for a month consistently. I feel a lot better. Like I'm feeling muscles, activated in my body that I've never really felt before. What's the next step? Maybe they might, as they're walking on the trail, they see people that's jogging. They see people that are jogging, and they want to start trying it out. Maybe they do like a speed lap, and then they do a light jog just to get in the habit of knowing how to form their body to run. And then this person says, you know what? I feel like I'm doing something wrong and I don't want to hurt myself. I think I'm going to invest in a run coach. I'm going to hire somebody to help me learn how to run because I feel silly. And like, I know if I feel silly, that's going to make me feel discouraged because I'm going to be so self-conscious. So I'm going to hire a run coach that's going to teach me how to run properly so that I build my confidence and I don't feel stupid when I'm out here on the track by myself running. So they get their run coach. The run coach serves multiple purposes, right? Helps them with their form, and then it helps them build confidence, and they have company when they're out there running. So maybe the run coach is running alongside them like, you're doing great, offering them encouragement along the way. So this is month 2 of this new habit being developed, right? They've started to work with this run coach. And so then they get to a point where they're like, you know what, run coach, this was really helpful. I feel confident enough in myself to start running alone or without you, right? Maybe they want to keep paying for the run coach, but if they don't, then maybe that's where they part ways. And the run coach is like, if you need any more encouragement, like you can come to the runners club. It costs $10 and whatever, we all run together. They decide to go to the running coach's running club, right? And so they start meeting other runners. And so that whole thing of them being intimidated by running has now turned into sport for them. It has been turned into regular activity, like regular exercise. And now it's a social event because they've joined this run club. And y'all all have seen the people, right? I see them all the time when I'm at the coffee shop. I'm not running with them, but I see them running past. And even if it's not like an official run club, like just groups of people running together. And I think those groups serve multiple purposes. So this person has gone from being a couch potato to being a walker to now becoming a runner. So the whole goal of them becoming a marathon runner in a year seems a lot more realistic than it did a couple of months ago. And because they've joined this social network of other runners, it's highly likely that some of the people that they're meeting in this run club or even their run coach has run a marathon before, can tell them what to expect beyond what they saw on the marathon registration page, right? So now this person is feeling like this is realistic for me. I'm going to keep running. I'm going to run a little bit further each time I go. I'm going to continue to run with the group because I feel like I can go further. I can push past my own personal limit when I'm running with someone. With the group, I feel encouraged. I feel safer. I feel like I know my form is good, and they keep doing it. They keep doing it. They keep doing it. They listen to the other runners that they have, met or become friends with, tell them about their experience in running the marathon. And so by the time they get to October, they mentally feel ready to do it. Now, they might be the slowest person that's running, but that doesn't matter. They have built the mindset up. They have built their mindset up of a marathon runner, and they ran the marathon. They went from being a couch potato to being a marathon runner. It did not happen overnight. It took dedication, and it took them eliminating the belief that they couldn't do it. So, pull your weeds up by the root. You have to dig a little bit deep. and deeper for some large plants, right? If it's a tree, you're going to have to hire somebody to chop up and grind that stump for you, because those roots are going to continue to grow. If it's a plant, maybe you need a hand shovel to help you dig the roots out of the dirt, but you have to actually do the work. You have to apply the things to change your mindset so that you can see your life blossom, so that you can see your manifestations grow, and so that you can actually sustain them. That's the message. That's what I have. I got to practice what I preach, both, you know, as it pertains to my own manifestations in my life, but then also as it pertains to this tree that I now need to have cut down yet again. And yeah, it takes dedication, it takes diligence, it takes work on my side, it takes work on the person's side, that, you know, on your side, if you're trying to manifest something. But you can do it. You can do it. You just have to continue to apply the new changes in order to drown the old stuff out, in order to eliminate the infestation of those negative beliefs, so that you can see the new stuff grow. I hope this message found whoever it was supposed to find, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.